Green door cracks, ball game on. Man on the porch singing baritone. Tan line leads to that gentle place between a collarbone and a stone.
What's going on, San Diego? It's Braden Surprenant here on a Monday night, America's finest football show. Looking forward to talking some high school football with all of you. It's been a couple of weeks in the making. Wanted to put this thing together. Wanted to be able to, talk some high school football with all of you guys out there. I thought, doing this show in the past was always so much of a blast. And wanted to get back on the 97.3 The Fan airwaves on Mondays and then back on YouTube on Thursdays. So, again, if you missed any of the shows, you can always rewatch them on YouTube. We'll re-air them live on Thursday nights at around 7 o'clock. But we're going to be here with you each and every Monday night from 10 to midnight, taking the late hours, talking some high school football. And as this show progresses over the next couple of weeks and everything, we will have some guests on. We'll have some local reporters on talking high school football. We'll have some of the local coaches talking some high school football, telling some stories of the past or some of the games that have happened in more recent time. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be great talking high school football with all of you. So thanks again for joining us tonight and hopefully throughout the next couple of weeks or so. I know we will have a couple of conflicts with the Padres for a couple of games in September, and who knows of October where the Padres are at in terms of just overall playing, and hopefully they're playing late into October, and we're playing some playoff baseball here, and the longer the season goes, the better it is for all of us Padres fans. But in terms of high school football, we're about to start week 3 of the high school football season this week, and each and every Monday, what we're going to do, we're going to give you the top 10 in high school football. We're going to talk about, one, I would say controversial topic, but one that's trending amongst the coaches and players and everybody that's involved with high school football, whether it be the transfer rules that are in place now, whether or not they need to be fixed, the new seeding for the playoffs. We're going to get into that today. We're really going to get into that as we'll talk about that coming up about 10:30. p.m. tonight. We'll talk about the new playoff seeding. We'll get into some recruiting on this show. We'll talk some college football on this show. It's going to be a football show. America's finest football show with Braden Surprenant. That's what this show is going to be about. It's going to be mostly high school, but we'll talk San Diego State Aztec football. We'll talk about USD football, the local teams in town. We'll talk some of the college football programs throughout Southern California and what has an impact, but also where a lot of our kids are playing now and how they're doing on the weekends, on Saturdays, just as much as they're doing on Friday nights. And we'll add to that as the show progresses. We want to make this a football show on 97.3 The Fan. We talk a lot of Padres on this station. It's a Padres flagship station, and we're going to talk a lot of Padres on this station. But, from Monday nights from 10 to midnight, we're talking high school football. We're talking college football. I don't know how much NFL we'll get into, but it's mostly going to be dedicated to the kids that play on the Friday nights. The boys of fall, everything that happens on Friday nights. That's what this show is going to be about. So looking forward to it. Obviously, for anybody that doesn't know me or just tuning in at this point, my name is Braden Surprenant. I do a show each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on 97.3 The Fan. On that show, we dive more into Padres. We'll recap college football. We'll preview NFL on Sunday mornings. And then during the week, I'm on from 10 to 2 each and every day, middays with the Annie and Elston show. So some of the parts that I am a part of, I did want to mention some disclaimers just to the show. I am a high school football coach. I do coach at Cathedral Catholic High School. I'm the special teams coordinator on varsity, defensive coordinator on JV. Have a blast doing it. I played high school football at Cathedral, so I'm at my alma mater. So that's the disclaimer on any of the takes that I may or may not have. Obviously, we all have different takes on different things when it comes to high school football, especially, public versus private schools and, the way that we view things as a big school compared to a small school. So that all has to be kind of factored in. I just want to throw that out there before we really start, getting into this and diving into the nitty gritty of high school football. So that's some of my background in high school football. My dad was a high school football coach, still is, for over 35 years here in the county. Spent some time coaching at his alma mater of Grossmont High School, and then, going on to coach at other places, not particularly in this order, but at Santana. He was at Kearney. He was at St. Augustine High School, Cathedral Catholic now, just to name, some of the few. He's at Grossmont a couple of times, as a matter of fact. So I grew up on the high school football field here in San Diego. I know the history of it, and I love it. It's a passion of mine, and I love that we get to talk about this each and every Monday night on 97.3 The Fan. Again, we're going to go from 10 to midnight, and then we're going to re-air it on YouTube for all of you watching on YouTube right now on a Thursday night. Hopefully this will get you ready up for tomorrow for high school football on Friday nights. We'll talk about some of the Week 3 games later on in the 11:30 spot to kind of end the show. We'll talk some quick college football, how Aztec Fast did over the weekend, how Sean Lewis did in his debut as the head football coach at San Diego State. And then we will get into our top 10s and some standouts from this week as well at the high school football level. Let's talk about Week 2. Week 2 was a nice little build up from Week 1. I think a lot of teams, came out of the gate in Week 1 firing on all cylinders. I think some teams were, faltered a little bit in Week 1, and that's going to be very difficult, or really Week 0. And that's going to be the case for a lot of teams. I mean, I always say all the time, if you're an opponent that really wants to boost your rating and get a good rating by playing a team tight, I mean, especially a team that's as good as ours is, schedule Cathedral Week 1, because we're never firing all cylinders in Week 1, just like a lot of other schools. So Week 2 was really good. I think it started to separate a little bit in terms of the top and the rest of the county. We're just 2 weeks in, and there's still a lot of football to be played. We will dive into the new seedings, as I mentioned before, and where everything stacks up. And, we'll go week to week of what happens if the season ended today, because there's no more divisions now in high school football. So for anybody just tuning in or driving around town that wants to know about high school football, and it's not like it was back in the day. It's different than when I played. When I played, it was based on enrollment. And since I left, the year after I left, they went to a power rating system, and that has now evolved a couple of times, where they would reevaluate after a couple of years. They'd rate different years. But now with the playoff seating, there's no more divisions until the end of the season. So it's just you're 1 through 5 throughout the year, and the better you do, the higher the division you're going to be in for the playoffs. The worse you do, the lower the division. And obviously, if you're not part of the 64 teams or top 64 teams in San Diego County, you will most likely be on the outside looking in, despite maybe some other things that are involved with that. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I do want to mention some of the scores from Week 2. Lincoln all over Long Beach Poly last Friday night when they went up to Long Beach and just hammered the Jackrabbits 42-14. Really bounced back after a loss to Arborview in Week 1. And the Week 1 loss, I mean, Arborview is a good team. They're the third best team in the state of Nevada. They're not a pushover. I think a lot of people were shocked that Arborview beat Lincoln. I was one of those people. I mean, Arborview jumped out to a pretty big lead, and Lincoln battled all the way back, ended up taking the lead, and then Arborview was able to go ahead and get a game-winning touchdown to win 45-44 over Lincoln to drop them to 0-1. I still kept them in my top 10 at number 1. I mean, I think their schedule is very difficult, and they continue to play a tough schedule by beating Long Beach Poly. Long Beach Poly now 0-2 to start the year. Now, that's a Southern Section team. Don't have to worry about them too much, but that's a great win for Lincoln to get back on track. They're now 1-1 on the season. Cathedral Catholic with a big win over Chaminade on Friday. They won 34-13. And in that game, I mean, it was a physical game. It was a scrappy game. It was a hostile game between two teams that have played each other now for the third time. Cathedral won the first matchup a couple of years ago in a rout in the Honor Bowl. Last year, Chaminade won up in Los Angeles, and this year it was Cathedral Catholic getting the W 34-13 over Chaminade. Brady Palmer made his debut as a Cathedral Catholic Don. Kind of a rough game for him. Wasn't necessarily his best game. Again, just becoming eligible this week as he officially got everything in that he needed to get in order to get cleared. And, you know, the transfer rules are all over the place, and it's hard to monitor. And, you know, that'll be a discussion topic for another day. I don't know how CIF's going to do that. I don't know how they're doing it right now. I mean, it's really a tough ask to try to go case by case and find different, go through everybody's paperwork to try to determine whether or not a player is eligible to play, or they have to sit out 5 games. Is it a sport-related transfer? Is it a hardship? There's so many things that are going to part of this, and kids are transferring more and more and more. So Brady Palmer gets cleared. I know Cathedral's got a handful of players that still need to get cleared in order to play. Some of them are already announcing a sit out, but that team's just going to get progressively better as they go about and play throughout the high school football season. Again, big win over Chaminade. Brady Palmer, tough game, at least statistically, but he didn't get the scrimmage. He didn't play in week 1. And then at the last second, all of a sudden he was playing in the game because he found out he was eligible on the day of the game. So I consider that that's going to be a work in progress to get them up to speed. And, it goes to like what I was saying on Sunday's show, on the Braden Surprenant show, about San Diego State Aztec football and how Aztec fast started off Aztec slow. But it's going to take some time for a rookie quarterback in a new system to do well for San Diego State, a freshman quarterback, a true freshman quarterback. It's going to take time for Brady Palmer to get adjusted to a new offense and get some reps and be able to play. And I think that was the game they had to do it against a good Chaminade team. Chaminade's rated 31 power rating on CalPreps. And CalPreps, if you've never heard of CalPreps, I think it's a great way to determine how good teams are. We've had Ned Freeman on before on the show. Ned Freeman is a guy that came up with this formula to evaluate basically every team in the United States on a power rating system. Now, it was designed for gambling, not for high school, but for other things. He then incorporated it for high school rating for football. It's now evolved a couple into different entities. MaxPreps uses the system that Ned Freeman has put together for the CalPreps rating system. And so when you see the MaxPreps ratings, or if I say CalPreps ratings, it's the same thing. And if you want to check it out, calpreps.com, that's going to rate every high school in the country. It's going to give you score projections for every matchup in the country. You can project a matchup for any team in high school football that's playing right now, or any team that has ever played up into a certain year. I think it goes back to like 2001. So you could take the 2001 Mission Bay Buccaneers and put them against the 2004 Helix Highlanders and see who did well. But that's all on CalPreps. They have the full ratings. They have all of the schedules. I pull a lot of my info from there. But to go back to what we were talking about, Cathedral Catholic beat Chaminade, who had a really good rating, a 31 rating. Obviously the higher the rating, the better it is, in the CalPreps system. The highest rated team on calpreps.com, if you look at the national power ratings for the top 25 in the country, that's Mater Dei Santa Ana, obviously in Southern California. Their power rating is a 103. So 103 is the very top. There are negative ratings as well. So 30 is pretty good. If you're around at 30, you're in pretty good shape. And if you look at like San Diego's top 10 on the power rating system, number 1 is Lincoln, and they have a 50 rating. Number 2 is Granite, 47. Cathedral's now a 40. Mission Hills, whose top 4 is 32.9. Carlsbad's a 31.5. And this rating system is the rating system that's going to seed the playoffs, and we'll get to that a little bit later. I want to get back to some of the games from last week, though. So Cathedral beat Chaminade. We talked about Lincoln beating Long Beach Poly. Granite with a big win over Mater Dei Catholic. Mater Dei Catholics just got a brutal 1-2 punch to start the season with Cathedral, and then Granite Hills coming in. Granite Hills trying to protect their open division championship that they won a year ago. They're undefeated right now. They're 2-0 after beating Mission Hills last week, or 2 weeks ago, and now Mater Dei Catholic last week to improve to 2-0. San Marcos gets a big win over Tesoro. Tesoro, a good team in the southern section with a 23.1 rating. So San Marcos improves to 2-0. La Costa Canyon hammered Del Norte last Thursday. And, I don't be surprised if La Costa Canyon's knocking on the door for an open division playoff spot, because La Costa Canyon's got some good players. They're playing really well. They hammered St. Augustine, who's not going to have a good year. Saints had the mass exodus with everything that went with their school. And, a lot of them ended up at Cathedral. A lot of them ended up at different places throughout the county. and they're going to be a work in progress for the next couple of weeks and maybe the entire year, but you'll never know how well they'll flip it around. But La Costa Canyon, big statement went over Del Norte. Del Norte, for the history that they have had under Coach Barnett, they have been they've turned it around. They've turned it around mightily. And they were on the outside looking into the top 10, the last week, coming in at, right around 12 on the power rating system. I had them at 12 on my, top 25 in San Diego, and, LCC with a statement win on a Thursday, go to Del Norte and come up with the dub. Carlsbad Cruz over Palos Verdes. That was a good win for them out of town. They won 33-7. They beat them. Game was at Carlsbad. And the thing that's going to be interesting with Carlsbad is Thad McNeil, without a saying at quarterback, but now his son's playing quarterback for him. And we'll see how the adjustment is. I mean, they had Julian Sayin. They had Aiden Sayin first, and then Julian Sayin for the last couple of years, for 3-year starter at quarterback, a quarterback that was recruited by Alabama, ended up going to Ohio State this past season due to Nick Saban retiring. And how do you change him out and get with the next? And then all on top of it, the added pressure that it's your son out there as the signal caller. So Carlsbad getting the win, first win of the season for them as they go 1-1 after losing to Lakewood 20-17 last week on the road. Mission Hills bounces back. They hammer Westview 42-0 after losing to Granite Hills 28-17. Read some of the articles in the paper. And they're a good team, but Coach Hauser doesn't think they're there yet. Not there yet. Still trying to work on some things up there at Mission Hills. El Camino, really tough loss to Mountain View out of Arizona. They lost 42-20 after dominating Helix the week before, 49-20. So that's a tough loss for El Camino. Mountain View comes in with a 22.8 rating. El Camino probably should win that game more times than not. Still early on in the rating system. And Cal Preps put a tough loss for El Camino. I thought La Jolla had a great win over Torrey Pines on Friday night. They go out and they beat Torrey 21-14 at home, and I really think they're in the top 10 now in San Diego County. I think La Jolla might be a little bit of a sleeping giant in Division I. I don't think they have enough to make an open division, but I think they might be able to compete at the Division I level. I don't know if they can win Division I, but they're going to be a good team this year. They got a win over Bishops in their crosstown rivalry, if you will, the battle for Pearl Street, for lack of a better term, and then they go out and beat Torrey Pines 21-14. Rancho Bernardo looks really good under Eric Weddle. 41-7 victory for RB over San Pasqual on Friday. They beat their crosstown rival in Poway the week before 13-10. San Pasqual is not going to have that great of a year, but it's still a pretty good win for Rancho Bernardo, and they improved to 2-0 in the season as well. I got them in my top 10 this week, and we'll talk more about the top 10 in just a little bit when we come back. Mount Miguel got a win over RBV. Mount Miguel really hasn't been tested too much yet. They beat St. Anthony. They have a negative rating on Cal Preps, 47-16. They hammered Rancho Buena Vista, who's not expected to do really that much damage this year in San Diego high school football. And Verlaine Batofi in his first year, or second year as a head coach at Mount Miguel, is trying to turn that program around. And they won a CIF championship last year, and now with the new playoff seedings, they're probably going to be in Division I, not too far off, but nice 2-0 start to the season. Got the philosophy party in the end zone. They've been partying in the end zone a lot. 52 points against RBV, 47 points against St. Anthony. Mount Miguel rolls to a 2-0 start. Helix, another tough loss. It might be a tough year for the Helix Highlanders. They lost 49-20 El Camino, as I mentioned before. Helix lost 35-14 to St. Francis. St. Francis is a really good football team out of the Bay Area. They came down to play Helix after Helix went up there last year. 35.4 rating. Out of all of the teams that San Diego teams have played this week out of town, and even on the season, St. Francis is the best team or one of the best teams that San Diego teams have played, to start the year. Arborview and Long Beach Poly are a little bit better, although I think Long Beach Poly probably got a little bit of a downgrade after the loss to Lincoln in back-to-back losses. But St. Francis, one of the second best team schools played all year. So you can't really knock them too much for that. They did play a tougher schedule than a lot of other teams, but Helix with a tough loss, as I said, losing 35-14. Didn't look that great on the PPR, and I know they'll figure it out. Helix is Helix. They've always been Helix. They've always been competitive, but a tough 0-2 start to the Highlanders season. Del Norte, we mentioned, they got smoked by La Costa Canyon. They're a team that's trying to hang around with D1. Mater Dei, we talked about their score to Granite Hills. They lost 56-28 back-to-back weeks to two teams that will probably be in the Open at the end of the year. A tough start to the season, but as we'll talk about at 10:30, Mater Dei is going to be in a good spot in the playoff seeding just on the new playoff system in itself. Oceanside gets a win over Santa Fe Christian. How about Drew Brees getting involved with high school coaching? I know his kids go to Santa Fe Christian, but now Drew Brees, according to the PPR and seeing his mug on TV, Drew Brees is going to be the offensive coordinator at Santa Fe Christian High School. So you got a lot of former NFL players coaching high school football here in town. It's great to see. You got Nick Barnett at Del Norte High School. You got Eric Weddle at Rancho Bernardo High School. You got Drew Brees now at Santa Fe Christian. It's great to see some of these, former NFLers, going and coaching high school football. A lot of them, obviously, their sons are now at the high school level or going to be very close to the high school level. And I mean, Phillip Rivers is doing it down in Alabama. Why not continue to do that? I want to see. Here's the thing. I would think it would be great to see St. Michael's out in Alabama take on one of these teams that are coached by one of Phillip Rivers' former teammates. I think St. Michael's needs to play at Rancho Bernardo, either here or there. I think St. Michael's needs to play Santa Fe Christian, either here or there. Let's get Phillip Rivers on the sideline coaching against one of his teammates. That'd be great. I think that'd be great to watch. I think it'd be great for high school football here in town. Put that in Snapdragon Stadium. Now we're talking with some ideas here. Other scores for you. Santa Fe Christian lost to Oceanside 26-14. That's what got me on that. Central out in the Imperial Valley has done a good job so far this year. They're 2-0. Their best football player is a defensive end. He's committed to TCU, which is a nice pickup, for Central to have a 3-star athlete like that. And so far they're 2-0. Madison gets a victory to improve to 1-1 after beating Steel Canyon 35-21. La Jolla Country Day over Crawford 26-6. Poway with a bounce-back win over St. Augustine. They won 34-16. Point Loma bounces back after losing to Del Norte 20-7. They beat Otay Ranch 21-10. Bishops beats Christian 24-13 after losing to La Jolla last week 38-21. And University City. I think University City is a team is going to move up the ranks very quickly with a lot of the stars that they have and a lot of players that they have had that now part of the program that have come in from other schools that play together at the youth level, now getting back together at the high school level. University City, based on their schedule and how things will play out, I think they will have a pretty good year this year. They win 49-14 over West Hills. Scripps Ranch over El Cap, I thought was a good game. Over the weekend, they won 20-7 over El Cap out at Lakeside. And that was probably one of the last scores that we saw last Friday. And a good score and a good win for Marlon Gardner's crew and the Scripps Ranch Falcons. They improved to 2-0 on the season. We're just getting started here on the High School Football Show, which is the America's finest football show with Braden Surprenant. We're going to take it to midnight tonight, and then we'll talk to you next week, obviously. But when we come back, talk about some Week 2 standouts and looking at the top 10 in high school football. I'll give you my top 25. My top 10 vote was in for the Union Tribune. We'll talk about the top 10 and some Week 2 standouts when we come back. This is America's finest football show with Braden Surprenant on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Talking about high school football, college football. We'll talk, I don't know how much NFL we'll get to, but definitely those two in particular. I do want to mention that this show, again, will re-air on YouTube. So all of you that like to tune in on YouTube, this will air again on Thursday nights. So if you missed any of the show, you can go back and watch it on YouTube on Thursday night. I will be in the chat talking with all of you guys and having some interaction with the chat. It's hard to do the chat live on the radio. You know, it's you look and then you're off, and then it's so hard. So we'll be doing that on Thursday night, getting you ready for the high school football Friday coming up. There are some games on Thursday too. We'll talk about that in our last segment of the show coming up at 11:30. But at in the next 10 minutes or so, we will get to the new playoff seeding. And the new playoff seeding is something that I have advocated for. I mean, I haven't really, I haven't pitched anything to CIF, but this is kind of the way that I wanted things to play out. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's a little a little controversial to some. I don't think it is. I think it really rewards, teams that want to play the best and be the best and work their way up. And that's exactly what this playoff format is for. But, there are some people that are upset about it, and we'll talk it through. I will give you my best argument of why it's the best way that you could formulate a playoff. And there's no perfect way. And everybody always says that. There's no perfect way, but this damn sure is close. And we'll talk about that in our next segment. I did want to get to our top 10 for the week. I'll give you my top 25. I'll give a top 25 each and every Monday to be transparent. We vote in the Tribune writers and media poll for the San Diego High School football top 10. And I'm putting the top 10 together. And again, I use CalPreps a lot to kind of give it a base. The thing with CalPreps is it's going to take them some weeks to get up to speed on who's good and who's not. So that's why I like the human one too, because sometimes there's a lot of things that CalPreps can't evaluate. Obviously, they can't evaluate injuries. They can't evaluate, guys coming back on the transfer list that are eligible and vice versa, or guys being dinged up. I mean, it's a lot that doesn't get factored in when it comes to that and the predictions. So let's talk about the top 10. I'm going to go from 10 to 1, and cracking my top 10 this week, Rancho Bernardo. I think Rancho Bernardo is a good football team. Eric Weddle does a lot up there. I think he's calling the offense and the defense at the same time. And in year 2 at the helm of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, they're looking pretty good. They beat Poway. I think it's a good win for Rancho Bernardo. They beat them 13-10. Poway was in the Open Division playoff a couple of years ago. Now moving to the Avocado League, it's going to be a little bit tougher, I think, for Poway. That team that they had that made it to the Open Division, was a team that had a lot of seniors, very senior heavy. Granite was kind of the same way last year, but Granite Hills, I think, retooled a lot going into this season. But the Poway Titans, that they have been one of the better teams in North County, and that's why they moved up to the Avocado League. So a good win for Rancho Bernardo in week 1, and then last week, I mean, San Pasqual's they're not what they used to be. They got a brand new turf, looks great. Andrew Clark and company up there did a great job with the brand new turf, and hopefully that gets San Pasqual up and running, get more kids to stay in Escondido or go to San Pasqual High School. It looked great on their debut when I saw it on TV or on the PPR, but Rancho Bernardo is a lot better than San Pasqual, and I got them in my top 10 right now at 2-0. The other school I put in my top 10 that was not in my top 10 last week, I had them. Actually, I did have them. I had them at 9 last week. I'm going to keep it at 9. It's La Jolla. I'm going to have them in my top 10 at 2-0. They beat Torrey Pines 21-14. A good win against Bishops in week 1. La Jolla's got a couple of guys that are gonna do a lot of damage this year, and most notably in Jet Thomas, their offensive lineman. He's huge. I mean, he's big. I mean, he is a problem and going to be a problem for a lot of teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play. They also got Carson Deal at La Jolla, a first-team All-CIF player, excels on both sides of the ball at 52 catches for 769 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. So he's out there running around as a skill position player for La Jolla. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, their offensive lineman, that's committed to San Diego State is going to be he's going to be a problem for schools, especially the schools that they play. And I don't know if they're good enough to be an open division team. I think they probably will end up in Division I, but Jed Thomas, the senior offensive lineman for La Jolla, 6'4", 300 pounds, 3-star player committed to the Aztecs, first team All-CIF a year ago, rated the 72nd best player in California by 24/7 Sports. He's going to be a problem for a lot of schools playing La Jolla, and that's a big reason why I have him in my top 10. El Camino comes in at number 8. Loss to Mountain View kind of hurt him. I had him at 5. I moved him a couple of spots. I don't like punishing schools that play good teams out of town, and Mountain View is a good team out of town. So El Camino drops to 8 this week. Mission Hills, I had them at 7 last week. They stay at 7 this week. Not really tested with Westview. They're better than Westview. And you look at Mission Hills, they got enough around them where they're going to be pretty good. And I think they're going to be knocking on the door of an open division spot because they got some tools. I think everybody likes to look at right now. I mean, some would say they're not even the best team in San Marcos right now with how good San Marcos has played and the talent that San Marcos has on paper. But Mission Hills has a quarterback and a junior by the name of Troy Hune, who's going to Penn State. I mean, the guy's going to Penn State is a good school. It's a great school. It's a Power 5 school. It's one of the best schools in the Big Ten. Troy Hune's going to Penn State. He's already committed. Pro-style quarterback, 6'4", 4-star player by 24/7 Sports. He was 133 of 233 for 1623 and 16 touchdowns with 6 picks last year. Throwing 309 yards versus LCC and 4 touchdowns against Poway. Also had 3 rushing touchdowns. If you got a quarterback, you're going to be in good shape. And that's at all levels of football. It also goes to the line. I looked at Mission Hills didn't have a bigger line than Granite Hills, but their line's still pretty big. It's bigger than most in the county. Not the biggest. I don't know if they're big, like top 5 biggest, but they got a good sized line. They play. They're coached well. They got good athletes, and their quarterback's going to Penn State. Mission Hills is going to be good. I got them at 7 still. I think it's going to be a little bit of progress. I think the Avocado League's wide open right now. Speaking of the Avocado League, that's going to be the next 2 teams in my top 10. I got Carlsbad at 6. Big win against Palos Verdes. Again, what are they going to do after losing 5-star quarterback Julian Sayan, who graduated and now is at Ohio State? Replacing him is going to be a problem. It's just hard to do. It's hard to replace that. And there's going to be a lot of weight on McNeil to get the job done up there at Carlsbad. But I think, they're going to be a top 10 team. They're going to be they're going to be battling for an Avocado League championship that they've won the last couple of years. And they're going to be battling for an open division playoff spot. I got them at number 6 at 1-1. LCC, I think right now might be the favorite in the Avocado League based on how they've played the first couple of weeks. Beat a team out of town in Tesoro, who's good, not great, but good. Beat them 42-28 up there to improve to 2-0. No, correction, that was San Marcos. They beat Del Norte 49-8 on last Thursday night, and that's a good win for them. They beat St. Augustine, who is not going to be in the top 25 teams in the county, but they're not a pushover team, even with all the change that they have had. So a good win over Saints in week 1. Hammered Del Norte. I think that was kind of a statement win for Sean Sovacool and company. Sean Sovacool, big Padres fan. Love his energy at Petco Park, and he's got his boys rolling at 2-0 right now for the Mavericks. Number 5 on my list, improving from the 6th spot, jumping up 1 spot. Top 4, pretty much the same. I just flipped 2 and 3. San Marcos currently is my number 4 spot. They're not in the Avocado League. They had a couple of bad years, so they have dropped to the Palomar League, which I think they're the clear favorite to win that. And I think they're going to do some damage against some Avocado League schools if they play them in the near future. I think they have a chance to potentially make the open division as well. They're off to a 2-0 start, and they got some players too. I mean, they got good players on paper that are going to help them out, and they got a good quarterback. Crete McKeely, playing in only 8 games last year because of a broken collarbone, still completed 95 for 146 and 1,539 yards with 19 touchdowns and only 3 picks. He had over 353 yards and 3 touchdowns against RB last year, and 252 yards and 5 touchdowns against Steel Canyon. San Marcos got a ton of receivers too. I mean, they're loaded with the receiving corps. So ball's going to be airing the lot. They're going to be throwing the ball all over the place at San Marcos. And I got them at number 4 in my top 10. Granite Hills comes in number 3. They beat Modern Day Catholic by the exact same score as Cathedral did in week 2. And they beat Mission Hills, which is one of the better teams in San Diego. I flipped them with Cathedral just because Cathedral won the game against Chaminade out of town. And then I got Lincoln number 1. And Lincoln will stay number 1 until, probably league play because of how difficult their schedule is. To punish Lincoln for what they have put together in the schedule when they can't find any games in town. I'm just not going to do that. It's because it's so frustrating. You play all these good teams out of town, and it's like, oh, I've never heard of Arborview before. How good are they? Or like Arborview is really good. They must be because they're out of town. I mean, until you look at it on CalPreps, you're never going to know. So I got Lincoln number 1, Cathedral 2, Granite 3, San Marcos 4, LCC 5, Carlsbad 6, Mission Hill 7, El Camino 8, La Jolla 9, and Rancho Bernardo number 10. When we come back, we'll talk about a little bit, if we have time. I don't know if we have enough time to talk about the new playoff seeding and how that's going to work out for San Diego High School football. I like it, and I even have what it would look like right now if the season ended today, which we obviously know it does not. More to come on America's finest football show with Braden Surprenant, taking up to midnight tonight on a Monday on a Labor Day on San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3. Leaders throughout San Diego County as we are 2 weeks in, and you start looking at some of the players, and we got a lot of great players in the county, and I'm going to give some shout-outs here about that in just a little bit as we go through, some of the teams. But as of right now, and we'll go through some of the offensive stats, your current passing leader in San Diego, and again, this is an update to all your coaches out there to update your stats on Max Preps. I know the San Diego Union Tribune is already on you guys about sending it in as quickly as possible. But according to maxpreps.com, which has all the statistics, at least the ones that we have put in as coaches, a passing leader in town, Thomas Donovan of Grossmont High School, has thrown for over 896 yards already this season. He leads Achilles Smith Jr., the Oregon commit, who has 649 yards passing for the Lincoln Hornets. Now, a lot of that came in game 1 against Arborview, where he lit up the scoreboard in trying to come back from behind. But Achilles Smith Jr., 649 yards passing. Quentin DeMara of University City High School's got 582 yards passing. Matthew Mills of Claremont High School, 533 yards passing. And Leo Hoagland of Southwest San Diego in the top 5 with 528 yards passing. From a rushing attack standpoint, your top 5 in San Diego right now, Garrett Ace, La Jolla Country Day, has rushed for 428 yards already this season. Calipatria's Dominic Hawk for 342 yards. Gabriel Aguirre from Victory Christian Academy has 264 yards. Caden Hallman of Santana with 249 yards rushing already in the first 2 games of the season. And Ladarion Perkins of Chula Vista High School, 242 yards rushing on the ground in his first 2 games this season. Receiving leaders, Noah Walker, obviously, Grossmont and Lincoln. We're going to have some of the top guys based on where the quarterbacks are. Noah Walker's already have 399 yards receiving on the season for the Grossmont Foothillers. They're a team that's going to score a lot of points. I mean, their first game they lost to Patrick Henry. They gave up 77, but they ended up scoring, I think, like 50-something. They did the same thing again last week. Grossmont Foothillers are 1-1 in the year, but they're going to be lighting up scoreboards offensively with Anthony Lawrence at the helm of the Grossmont Foothillers. Noah Walker, 399 yards receiving already on the year. Ty Olson, the Lincoln Hornet, the transfer from Del Norte High School, already has 357 yards receiving. He's probably one of the best receivers in San Diego, if not the best receiver. And I know there's a lot of guys that are probably saying that they're better, but Ty Olson, one of the best receivers in San Diego County this year and last year for that matter, 357 yards receiving. He's tied with Parker Vanderberg. Vanderberg's got 357 yards receiving as well for Grossmont. Grossmont's got 2 of the top 5 receiving leaders in the county. Braden Gardner with 280 yards for University City, and Jordan Creighton for Southwest San Diego has 201 yards receiving already this season. Total points scored, Dominic Hawk. Talked about him earlier with the 342 yards on the ground. He's already accumulated 76 points because he has scored 12 touchdowns already for Calipatria. Serdarius Autry for the Hoover Cardinals. He's got 5 total touchdowns already. Aiden Jackson for Lincoln's got 5. Parker Vanderberg has 5 touchdowns, and Noah Walker has 5 touchdowns. Seem to be a recurring thing for some of these players already going through. I do want to give a shout-out to Serdarius Autry. He's one of the top 25 players in San Diego as picked by the Union Tribune. Senior running back for the Hoover Cardinals. First team CIF San Diego selection last year. Ran 251 times for 2,254 yards and 30 touchdowns, including 322 yards against Canyon Hills last year. Rushed for over 200 yards or more in 5 games and had 17 receptions for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. He has played in 26 varsity games, rushing for 3,799 career yards. That was before this season. I can probably get you the total stats on that. 41 career touchdowns, make it 46 career touchdowns for Serdarius Autry, drawing interest from a lot of Ivy League schools and service academies. Should be a player to note for the rest of the season, Serdarius Autry, and he's now got 5 total touchdowns on the season. In terms of defensive stats, Jathan Bejarano for El Camino's got 29 tackles already. Giovanni Lamone's got 24. Roberto Montejano's got 21 out of Calexico. And Tyree Citri of O'Farrell Charter's already got 21 tackles on the season. Sack leader comes to La Jolla Country Day. Wraithy Lechewski has 4.5 sacks on the season. Kyle Bolus of Mount Carmel's got 3. Jonah Tua has 2.5 sacks on the season for Army Navy. Maximus Tufu Galafali of Grossmont's got 2.5 sacks. And Lionel Canchola has 2 sacks for Calexico. Interception crew, the no-fly zone. Abudad Sharif has 2 picks for Lincoln, tied with Victory Christian Academy's Jaden Gray with 2. Gabriel Sanchez has 2 for Mar Vista High School. Jesus Leon's got 1 for Holtfield, tied with many throughout San Diego County. But that's a look kind of at stat leaders as of right now throughout San Diego County, doing some great things already. Some shout-outs for you on some high school football players in the county. Talking about, from a recruiting standpoint or some of the best players to watch in 2025, the San Diego Union Tribune did a great job of putting this list together. John Maffey and company, asking all the high school coaches around and really talking about a lot of these guys. And I'm going to try to get some of those names out to you right now. But Braylon Cardwell of Mal comes in on this list. Again, not in a specific order. We talked about Serdarius Autry of Hoover earlier. He's on this list. And some of these guys we've already mentioned on the show. Wide receiver DB for the Mount Miguel Matadors, playing in 9 games last season. He caught 25 passes for 402 yards and 5 touchdowns, 12 tackles, pair interceptions. 3-star players ranked 133 in the state by 24/7 Sports. Committed to San Diego State, Braylon Cardwell of Mount Miguel. Carson Deal, I mentioned earlier, from La Jolla, is on this list. Sidney Dupuy of the Cathedral Catholic Dons, a defensive end, 6'6", 260 pounds. Load on the defensive line, 3-star athlete according to 24/7 Sports, ranked 109 in the state, committed to San Diego State. Other big-time recruits in town, Draylon Gardner for University City High School, a senior, transferred from Lincoln, 3-star sprinter, 38 catches for 894 yards and 7 touchdowns with 3 100-yard games last year. In 34 career games, he has 84 catches for 1,879 yards and 17 touchdowns. On defense, he had 29 tackles and 3 picks. He's also a dangerous return man. Gardner ranks as the 62nd best player in the state by 24/7 Sports. Isaiah Grant, a Lincoln wide receiver, finished the season last year with 1,274 yards. 3-star player, rated as the 210th best player in the state by 24/7 Sports. Isaac Grassi of La Jolla Country Day, linebacker, all-CIF player at 6 foot 200 pounds a year ago, had 143 tackles and 9 tackles for loss. He's committed to Tufts. Giovanni Hart of Mission Hills, he's a running back. We talked about they're loaded at quarterback up there at Mission Hills, but they got a good punch with their running back and Giovanni Hart. May not crack the national spotlight, but he is a producer. Strong, 5'11", 210 pounds, 1,425 yards on the ground last year with 14 touchdowns and 250 carries last year. Plus, he caught 22 passes for 229 yards and a touchdown. Bishop's Cash Herrera, pro-style quarterbacks, played in 7 games after transferring from Orange Glen. Completed 123 of 187 passes for 1,686 yards. Colleges from the Big Ten to the Ivy Leagues are buzzing around the 6'3" quarterback, Cash Herrera of Bishops, another name to look out for this season. We talked about Troy Hune of Mission Hills. He is committed to Penn State. Pablo Jackson, running back for Helix, was a transfer from Granite. He has had a great season last year for Granite Hills in their Open Division Championship winning season. 124 carries, 798 yards, and 12 touchdowns. He has 27 career touchdowns. He will be the Highlanders' featured back. Carlsbad's got an offensive line. They always have an offensive lineman. Carlsbad's got some of the best offensive linemen almost every year, producing, and now got some guys in the NFL. Kai Jakobowitz, offensive lineman for Carlsbad, 6'8", 300 pounds, 3-star players committed to Duke. Another great lineman up there in the North County. Bronx Latuligasanoa, transfer from St. Augustine, is already off to a good start as an edge rusher for Cathedral in his junior season. He's 6'2", 250 pounds, receiving interest from some big-time colleges. Last player we'll talk about this year, or on this segment, because we got to get going, and we're going to talk about some seeding in just a little bit. Jared Martin out in the Imperial County at Central High School, edge rusher. He's a senior, played only 7 games last season, but is a 4-star athlete out there at Central by 24/7 Sports. 33rd best player in California, 6'3", 210 pounds, explodes off the edge, 33 tackles, 7 sacks, and 5 TFLs last year. In 24 career games, he has 104 tackles, 26 sacks, 25 tackles for losses, and 17 quarterback hurries. He is committed to TCU, and that's going to be a big addition to that 4-2-5 defense over there in Fort Worth, Texas. But edge rusher Jared Martin, one of the best players in the county, or really in the San Diego section out there in Imperial County. I got time for a couple more. Jason Nix, of course, is committed to San Diego State, top flight sprinter, San Diego section Division I. Actually, he's committed to San Jose State. My apologies. Champion in 100 meters, running a time of 10.68 seconds. 200 are in the 100 meter. In the 200, he ran a 21.7. Capped a junior year in which he 3-star player and first-team All-CIF performer, caught 56 passes for 1,313 yards and 13 touchdowns. Jason Nix has 161 catches for 2,341 yards and 34 touchdowns in 33 career games. Ranked as the 99th best player in the state by 24/7 Sports, he is committed to San Jose State. I mentioned Ty Olson earlier. I didn't really know where he was committed yet, but he is actually committed he's committed to San Jose State as well. And then quarterback Brady Palmer of the Cathedral Catholic Dons, big arm, first-team All-CIF passer last year, transfer from St. Augustine, 3-star player by 24/7 Sports, drawing interest from Big Ten and SEC schools. Completed 282 of 459 career passes for 3,893 yards and 36 touchdowns. He's been picked off 19 times in 26 varsity games. He's getting a lot of interest from the likes of like Ohio State and some other Big Ten schools, mixed in with some SEC schools as well. Got tons of great players here in San Diego County. It's going to be a fun season this year. Again, this is America's finest football show with Braden Surprenant. If you're just tuning in, live and local, even late at night here in San Diego on the Padres flagship station. We're going to be on each and every Monday from 10 to midnight, talking high school football, recapping the previous week, previewing the week before. Already an hour into the show, and we got another great hour coming your way in just a little bit. We're going to talk about the new playoff seedings when we come back. There's new rules on how they're going to seed the playoffs. It's not based on enrollment. It's all based on how good you are, and there's no more divisions. Divisions will get seeded at the end of the year, and if you're one of the top 64 teams in San Diego, you'll be in the playoffs, and if you're not, you won't. And it has nothing to do with enrollment or anything where you finish in league, and we'll talk all about that. Thank you for downloading the latest episode of the Braden Surprenant Show. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at B_SURP. And be sure to tune in every Sunday for the Braden Surprenant Show from 8 to 10 in the morning right here on 97.3 The Fan. Enjoy the show, guys. Welcome back to America's finest football show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'm Braden Surprenant, and going into the late nights here as we start the 11 o'clock hour, the final hour of America's finest football show. First hour went by so quick. Talking high school football with all of you. This is a new show. We're going to be doing it every Monday night from 10 to midnight, talking high school football, talking college football, trying to get as much football in as possible. And we're going to re-air it on YouTube each and every Thursday, get you ready for high school football on Friday night. So if you're watching on YouTube, thanks again. I'm in the chat. Be sure to leave a comment, give us a like, subscribe to the YouTube page, either the Braden Surprenant Show at B_SURP or on 97 through the Fan. You can follow me on social media at B_SURP on Twitter and on Instagram as well as TikTok. You can also follow my YouTube page at B_SURP. You can do the same thing with the station account at 97 through the Fan, which we are broadcasting on Thursday. So all of you in the future on Thursday, hello to all of you. But here on Monday, it's late at nights, long nights on Labor Day, and we're getting ready for week 3 already of the high school football season. We're going to talk more about that to end the show. But I do want to get into, and it's an interesting topic because this has been a point of contention for a lot of schools and coaches and programs throughout San Diego about how to seed the playoffs. And there's been a lot of different ways to do this. There's been a lot of different formats we've had the last couple of years. I mean, just in my time coaching, which I'm now in my 8th season coaching at Cathedral, I graduated in 2013. So my last football season of playing was 2012. From playing to coaching, and that's over 10 years now, the playoffs have changed like 3 or 4 times in terms of what we do. When I was a player, it was based on enrollment. I think in this day and age, it's too hard to make everything on enrollment anymore. Especially in California and San Diego, we have so many high schools. And that's also part of the problem. I mean, a lot of the teams out here are just struggling to find players, trying to grow this sport. There's just not enough players to go around for a lot of these schools. I mean, a lot of the small schools are just struggling to have enough guys. I mean, there are schools that have like 26 players on the roster. Like it's a Major League Baseball roster for football. And there's other schools that have like 70 guys on their roster. And the thing that's the most difficult part about that is you don't have these factory-sized schools like you see in Texas and other parts of the country. I mean, there's so many high schools here, which is a good thing from an educational standpoint, right? So many high schools, low enrollment. You know, hopefully it's more. You know, the student to teacher ratio is good, so everybody's getting a good education wherever they go, whether it be private school or public school. So from an education standpoint, it should be good. But from a sports standpoint, especially a sport like football where you need as many people as possible to play, you know, the enrollment thing doesn't really work out, I don't think. I think it's more archaic anyway. I think in Texas you could do the enrollment thing. I mean, you got schools that are like 7,500 plus out there in the state of Texas. These gigantic schools. I mean, our biggest school, I think, in town is like 3,000 kids, which is half of like most of the schools in Texas. But I think enrollment is old. I think it's out of touch. I don't think it fits this market. I don't think it fits this section when it comes to determining playoff spots. I think it's better to determine based on how good you are and how good you play. And I think it has to do with this year. I mean, that was the biggest problem in reality, was for a lot of the time in San Diego, there was a big problem with, well, we have a really good team this year, but next year we're not going to have a good team. And how we do this year is going to affect next year when it's a totally different team. I totally understand that. I mean, if you're a team like Poway from a couple of years ago, you have a really good group you have like 35 seniors, really good class, tons of studs, and you get bumped up, and they ended up getting bumped up to the Open that year. But you want to have that team have their best chance to win the highest championship possible. But in doing so, and having that great year, you shouldn't be punished in the future in reality of, well, that was just one good year. I mean, we don't have that coming through. The cupboards are dry. They're bare, as they say. So because we were really good last year means we have to play a lot higher this year. I can understand some of the arguments behind that, especially for programs that have like really good seasons and then it falls off. And everybody goes through phases. Everybody goes through ups and downs. From some of the best teams in the county to the worst, everybody has either a good year when they don't have a lot of good years, or everybody has a bad year when they don't have a lot of bad years. It just happens. So the enrollment thing was one, and then the new format was based on rating system, which I like. I like the CalPreps rating system. I think it's the best you could possibly have. There's no perfect method, but it is the best as of right now of what we have available. Are the teams going to get left out? Yeah, sure. But I think the biggest argument for it is when they started with the CalPreps rating system and they seeded the playoffs. These MaxPreps, CalPreps, the same thing. Started by Ned Freeman. It was 100% accurate to get the seeds correct, which for some reason was a problem for a lot of teams. They had an 8-team playoff in the Open. I thought it was great. I think they need to go back to an 8-team playoff. Well, it's not, 7, 8, 9. They're not supposed to win. If you seed a playoff 1 through 8, 8's not supposed to win it. Neither is 7, neither is 6, neither is 5. And then the next team that's not supposed to win is 4, then 3, then 2, and then 1. That's why they're seeded 1 through 8. That's why you have the seeds. Does it make it for entertaining purposes? No. It's not very entertaining from that standpoint. But during the 8-team playoff for high school football at the Open Division here in San Diego that was based on CalPreps, the better seed won every single time, all the way through. There wasn't a single time where the number 1 seed did not win that tournament. And 2 didn't make it to the championship, and 3 and 4 didn't make it to the semis. Not one time. And so teams that were 5 through 8 were like, well, this is ridiculous. Why are we playing in a tournament that we can never win? We should be allowed to win a tournament. I think there needs to be a sense of understanding that just because you are good doesn't mean you deserve to win a championship. It's the difference between being great and being good. And the separation between good and great and elite is razor thin at a lot of different levels in sports. You could even say the same thing in high school football. I mean, the difference between the 4 and the 5 seed in those tournaments was razor thin, and the 4 usually won. But that doesn't mean it's bad. And everybody, I'm sure people in the comments freaking out about the 18. I think it would be better if it was 8 teams. I mean, I don't even know why you have an open division anymore. I guess it's open now, but now it's open for everybody. Everything's open with no divisions. But why have an open division? Just make it Division 1. Make it 8 teams. Make it the best 8 teams. That's a tournament. I mean, a 4-game playoff is not a playoff. I mean, that's just like trying to act like we can send more teams to state this way at different levels. But it was before, and especially is now, the way it's tiered. And now it's even in more because they're going to go 1 through 64 and just seed. If you win the Open Division, you're the best team in the county. If you win Division 1, you are the 5th best team in the county. So even though you won a championship, you're 5th place. If you go from top to bottom. And then if you win D2, you are 16th, 17th place. And then if you win D3, you are the best you could finish is 29th. D4, the best you can finish is 41st. Then D5, the best you can finish is 53rd. Are they CIF championship? Are they championship? They give you a plaque for it? That's fine. Yeah, it's great. But at the end of the day, we all know where you finished in the grand scheme of things if they're going to go 1 through 64 and seed it into different tournaments. I mean, there's a lot of good football teams out there. That doesn't mean you're getting ripped off of losing a championship. If you get seeded in a higher division, you don't win. That's where you belong. That is the teams that are your caliber teams in that spot. And so as I went through kind of the progression of this playoff, I mentioned again, it was enrollment when I was in high school. The year after I left, they decided to do the rating system, but they would update the divisions every year on a power rating system, and you couldn't jump more than 2 divisions, which I thought that was fine. And then so many people complained about the CalPreps ratings because I don't know the formula. Who cares? I don't know the formula. That doesn't mean I don't like it. I like the end result. Why do I care how they determine how it's done? It's a good system. They correctly and accurately predicted scores for almost every game in San Diego high school football. I mean, predicting scores. And then they predicted all the seeds correct. I mean, it's obviously highly accurate. Just because it didn't go your way doesn't mean it's not accurate, and sometimes it doesn't. I like the system, but the fact that like us coaches needed to know what was in the ingredients, like that was going to be the major difference for us. Like, well, I got to know what are they rating exactly? So enough coaches bitched about that, so they went to CIF and they changed that, and they went to a system that CIF came up with. And I have a lot of difference of opinions with the CIF offices, a lot. It's a bureaucracy thing, right? I mean, they're in charge. They run the thing, and then again, it's they do the best job that they could do with what they have in front of them. And they don't like make the rules. I mean, all the coaches come together and they go to their league meetings, and the league meetings then report to their section areas in San Diego high school sports, and then those section leaders, not really section, but areas of the county. There's a North County representative, there's a South Bay representative, there's a small school representative, there's a city league school, there's a city school representative, and there's an East County school representative. And then there's an Imperial County representative. Those 6 representatives then vote on this thing with CIF to determine what the rules are. But CIF's like, we don't care either way. What do you guys want to do? We'll enforce it. So they came up with a CIF rating system. Well, here it is, and here's all the maths that we understand. That was dumb. It was stupid. It was not nearly as accurate as CalPreps. It really rewarded teams that had good records but played soft schedules. And it wasn't a good system. I didn't like it. I think the way that the formula wasn't the thing that needed to be changed. The thing that needed to be changed is what they ended up changing it to. So, despite everything that I just told you and how they're going to seed high school football playoffs for all you high school football fans out there, the official statement is on the website, but here's what they put out. The CIF San Diego Section 11-man football playoffs shall be conducted in 7 divisions, with 8-player football being conducted in 1 division, that'd be D6. All divisions, with the exception of the Open, which will have 4 teams, Division 5 AA and D6, will be 12-team brackets. Those other will not. Individual schools will be evaluated and placed into divisions on a yearly basis, utilizing a formula based entirely on current regular season results. Final rankings and divisional placements will be determined and released at the end of the current regular season. Seeding for all playoff brackets in each division will follow the final rankings in that division, regardless of the league affiliation or league finish. Each league will have 1 automatic qualifier, the league champion. In the event of a tie for a league championship, the conference tiebreaker will be used to determine which team receives the automatic qualifier as a league champion. League champions are guaranteed admission into the playoffs, but are not guaranteed a home game. In the past, they used to be guaranteed a home game. Now, you just get in. I think that's fine. I think that's fair. The Commissioner's Office and Advisory Committee will take the end of the regular season rankings and place them in divisions based on their ranking in the following order. Teams 1 through 4. The best 4 teams in the county will be in the Open Division. Teams 5 through 16 will be the 12 teams in Division 1. Teams 17 through 28 will be the 12 teams in Division 2. Teams 29 through 40 will be the 12 in Division 3, and so on and so forth through 53 to 64 for Division 5. There are only 3 instances where seeding will deviate from the rankings. 1, if teams that opted into Division 5 AA are ranked in the top 64, they will not be included in the bracket. In that instance, each team ranked after the Division 5 AA team will move up 1 spot to complete the bracket. The second instance is if a league champion is not in the bracket based on their ranking. In that case, the league champion will replace the lowest ranked non-league champion, which is currently, if you saw it right now, is exactly what would happen for a couple of instances, and I'll explain that very, very quickly. In that case, the league champion will replace the lowest ranked non-league champion. The third would be if the higher ranked team lost to the team immediately behind them in the rankings. So like head to head, that would be the time where the lower seeded team would move up one position and the higher ranked team would then move down one position. Teams can only move one position in the final rankings. So that's how they're going to determine it. They essentially took like what they used to do way back in the day with the Cal Prep system. They're going to use that to rank teams, and then they're going to take what Orange County does, or the southern section, just rank teams 1 through whatever. San Diego's got 88 teams, I think it is. They'll go 1 through 88, top 64 make the playoffs, everybody else is out. Unless you're part of the D5 AA, or you're an 8-man, which 8-man's not included in those 80-something teams. So that's how they're going to determine the playoffs. So if the season ended today, and here's a big if. Again, that doesn't really, it is what it is. The season doesn't end today. They've played 2 weeks. But as of right now, based on how this is, your automatic qualifiers, this is just based on, what I did was I calculated everybody's best team according to Cal Prep since they haven't played any league games yet. And those teams are all automatic qualifiers. So during the season, whoever wins the league are automatically in the playoffs. So there will be, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's 18 teams that are guaranteed a playoff spot in the top 64. 1 from each league. So as of right now, the highest ranked team based on Cal Preps, which is not the way that's going to be determined. It's going to be on wins and losses, but we haven't gotten there yet. So if we go based on who the highest rated team is, who's the favorite to win according to Cal Preps, Mission Hills would automatically qualify for winning the Avocado League, Kearney for Central League, Christian for the City League, Bishop for the Coastal League, Holtville for the Desert League, La Jolla for the Eastern League, Granite Hills for the Grossmont Hills, El Cap for the Grossmont Valley, and so on and so forth. Based on the rating system and seeding 1 through 64, here's what the playoffs would look like. In the open division, you would have Lincoln as the number 1 seed, hosting the number 4 seed Mission Hills. Both of those teams, by the way, would be automatic qualifiers for winning their league. Granite Hills would be the 2 seed right now, and Cathedral Catholic would be the 3, because Lincoln's got the highest rating of a 50.6. Granite's got the 47.2 rating, followed by Cathedral at 40.6 and Mission Hills for 39.2. Those are the top 4 teams rated in the county. They get the top 4 seeds in the open division. Then in Division 1 would be the 5th best team ranked in the county. That would be Carlsbad right now. They have a 31.5 rating on CalPreps. They are not an automatic qualifier, but they get the number 1 seed in Division 1. The number 2 seed would be La Costa Canyon based on the rating system, followed by San Marcos at 3, and La Jolla would be 4 in Division 1. Helix is the 5. They'd be playing the 12 Bishops. El Camino the 6 would be playing Torrey Pines the 11. Mater Dei the 7. Mater Dei Catholic, who's 0-2, but played 2 good teams, have a good rating. They would host Del Norte the 10, who's 1-1 on the season. Rancho Bernardo would play Mount Miguel. So even though all those teams in previous years would be in different divisions, it'd be definitely in different divisions for enrollment, but they're definitely going to be in different divisions for how good they've been in the last couple of years or so. Mount Miguel was like D4 last year. And now in the playoffs, they could be in D1. And in the old rules, they wouldn't be able to bump 3 spots up. So that would be your D1 playoffs of the season ended today. Division 2 would be Oceanside as the 1 seed. Madison would get the 2. Poway the 3. Central the 4. La Jolla Country Day the 5 would play in a first-round game against University City as the 12, as it right now. But I think University City is going to get their rating bumped up. St. Augustine will play Point Loma. Santa Fe Christian the 7 would play Steel Canyon the 10. Brawley the 8 would play Scripture Ranch the 9. Division 3, Mira Mesa would have the top seed, followed by Mount Carmel, Imperial, Ramona. Valley Center would be the 5, playing Chula Vista the 12. East Lake the 6, playing Sweetwater the 11. Christian the 7, playing El Cap the 10. Holtville the 8, playing Patrick Henry the 9. Christian, Holtville, and El Cap projected to win their leagues based on CalPreps would all have automatic qualifiers. Oceanside and Central and D2 would be your automatic qualifiers, and then in D1 it'd be San Marcos, La Jolla, Mater Dei, and Bishops. So as you see everything play out, again, I think it does a couple of things that's great. Number 1, it puts everybody in brackets with teams that are their caliber. The teams that are tweeners, right? If you're the 4th best team and you want to be the 5th best team so you have a better chance at winning a Division 1 title, I don't know why you would ever want to try to compete for 5th place. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. But there are coaches that think like winning a championship in anything is just winning a championship. I mean, to me, you could be playing for second. You're not even playing for second place. You're playing for 5th place. You're playing for 5th place in Division 1. Why wouldn't you want to be in the open? There should be an incentive to try to win the highest level possible. I mean, the Southern section people are fighting each other to try to get their way into the best division. They're Division I, which they don't have an open, so it's Division I. But down here, for some reason, we would rather win a Division II championship than win a division than come in like 6th in Division I. I don't know why. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I think it's just kind of a fake reward thing. But again, as I mentioned in the first hour, the bias is, okay, I'm at a bigger school. I went to a bigger school in terms of, football program, and we're always trying to compete for the top spot. I mean, that's where I want to be. I hate being in Division I. I'd rather be in the open every time. And I know Helix has the same mindset as we do over at Cathedral. We want to be in the open. We've always wanted to be in the open. If we go to Division I, we do not consider that as a successful season. It's not as successful. We want to be in the top division, playing in the top game, playing at Snapdragon Stadium for a CIF championship. Trying to play in the highest level possible in the state playoffs. So as much as Cathedral, whoever won the state championship the last couple of years, Cathedral's won one a couple of years ago, Lincoln won it. Those schools are winning like Division I AA. The Open is different in state. I mean, that's still, you're not the best team in the state. You're one of the best teams in the state. You're not the best team in the state. And the schools that we know in here understand that if we go to a state championship, we don't think we're in the same conversation as St. John Bosco and Mater Dei, or the Trinity League with J. Sarah Catholic, Santa Margarita. Now, maybe some of those teams at the bottom half you are in contention with. Corona, I mean, take it like Corona Centennial, for example, up in Corona. They're in the southern section. They can't get through to Mater Dei or Bosco almost ever. I mean, it's hard for them. They're a public school. Now, they're a very big public school, and they have their means of getting players, just like everybody in San Diego's got their own means of getting players. You can get your player any way you want. Everybody's got a special rule to get athletes into their school, and if you say you don't, you're lying. You do. You can get any play. I mean, I can come up with a special rule for every school in San Diego right now of how you can get players to go to your school. And not all of it's money involved. But Corona Centennial can get some kids to go to their school. They don't win CIF championships. Why? Because they're playing at the top level. But I'm going to tell you right now, if Corona Centennial had a bad year and went down a division and won a championship, I don't think they'd be that stoked about it. They want to be in the top level. So I'm hoping with this new playoff format of going seeding 1 through 64, everybody's goal should be trying to win the highest level division you possibly can. And every coach in San Diego should have that philosophy of, at some point in time, our long-term goal is to win an open division championship. That should be everybody's long-term goal. That might take you 5 years. It might take you 15 years if you're good enough to coach longer than any of those times. I mean, really getting to 15 years is insane itself. And I know there's different things with administrations and everything, but your goal long-term always should be win the open division. I think that's the case for a lot of colleges. I think a lot of colleges have the mentality of like, one day we want to win a national championship. We're not going to get there overnight. But that should be the goal of every school playing Division I football at the college level. Win the national championship. I think there's other goals on the way. I mean, there should be goals of like making a bowl game. There should be goals about like making the conference championship game, winning your conference championship, making the playoff, making a good bowl game, then making the playoff, winning in the playoffs, and then ultimately getting to a national championship. That should be everybody's goal in college football. And if it's not, I don't even know why you have a program. So for San Diego, it should be the exact same thing. Everybody should be trying to win an open division championship, especially the way things are playing out. I think it's great if you win a championship at a lower level. I think that's, again, fitting into the caliber of the team that you currently are. And if you win your division, you win a championship. Totally agree with that. It's the same thing of like winning your region in the NCAA tournament. I mean, San Diego State to me won a championship by going to the Final Four and then ultimately the national championship. It's almost impossible to win a national championship in basketball. It's almost impossible to do that. So San Diego State gets a trophy that looks just like the national championship trophy for winning the region. It's the same thing here. Winning your division. But again, the ultimate champ should be the Open Division champion. And I love this playoff format. I think it's great. The other thing with this playoff format, too, and here's the thing that people need to understand, because a lot of schools go like, well, if we play really well, we're going to have to compete in a division against all these teams that are just not our caliber. That's not even true. It's based on a rating system. I mean, look at your schedules. If you go and you look at your schedules, I can tell you right now whether or not you're going to make the Open or whether or not you're going to be in D1. I mean, you can just look. I'm going to use Mount Miguel for an example. Mount Miguel was in, I think it was, is it D4 or D3 last year? They won a championship. And the way that they're playing right now is great. And to go from D4 to the Open would be insane. But if you look at Mount Miguel's schedule, it is almost impossible for them to have a very high rating because of the teams that they play. Again, every time that the teams that you play other games, your rating gets affected. And that's why it's constantly moving as games are played throughout the country. I mean, there are times where, especially with the way San Diego now is playing a lot of schools out of town, especially the big teams, those schools that play San Diego teams out of town are the same schools that are playing other schools out of town. And so by virtue of just the cycle of playing a team, some random game in Indiana could have the effect on what Helix High School's rating is in the future. That seems kind of crazy, but at the same time, that's how accurate this thing is at determining who's the best, because they're constantly rating every single team in the country. So let's take Mount Miguel, for example. If you look at their schedule of who they play, on their schedule, St. Anthony is a negative 12.7 rating. They're not going to get a lot of credit for beating that team. Rancho Buena Vista is a negative 30. And how CalPreps kind of orders it, they have basically what is the expected result of two teams playing. And if that team that is expected to win, again, it's almost like a spread, and you're within 21 points of that spread, you're going to get good points. So if, for any case in reason, if Cathedral was expected to beat a team by 7 points, if they beat them by 7 points or more with a max of 21 points, because anything over that, it doesn't matter, so you don't try to run up the score on people. But if Cathedral beats a team, if they're favored to beat a team by 7 points and they beat them by 7 points or more, they're going to get a positive boost in their rating. If they play a team in which they're expected to win by 7 points and they beat the team by 6 points or less, or they lose, then they're going to get hit with a rating. They're going to get dinged. But the same thing is said if you're a team that's expected to lose to a team by X amount of points. If that team doesn't get to that threshold, you're going to gain points playing good teams. So if you go out there and you play, if you're a San Diego team, you go and play a Trinity League school. You sign up for playing a Trinity League school. Just ridiculous, right? You go play St. John Bosco or something. And St. John Bosco is expected to beat you by like 58 points. If you keep it within 58 points, you're going to go up in the ratings. And since it's almost impossible to beat a team by like 70 points, just scheduling that game, you're going to get a boost. And every time that team wins, you're going to get a boost. So I go back to Mount Miguel. And I'm not calling out for Lane on his schedule. I'm just saying in general. I'm using them as an example because they went from D4 up. This is one of the teams that was like, wait, we were D4 last year. Now we're going to get bumped up all the way to D1. You're not. They played St. Anthony's got a negative 12.7 rating. Rancho Buena Vista's got a negative 30 rating. La Jolla Country Day's got a 1.3 rating. Bishops has a 4.3. Loyola's good. That's a 24.6. They win that game, they'll get a little bit of a boost. But then they play Grossmont with a negative 20. If they beat Granite Hills, they'll get a major boost. But other than that, I mean, you go through their schedule, they play 5 teams that have a negative rating. 6. They play 6 teams with a negative rating. They're not going to have the number. They're not going to be above a 40 rating at the end of the season, even if they go undefeated. It's going to be almost impossible. So I think the same thing could be said again. I went through these, what if the season ended today, BS, right? I mean, take a team like, who's an undefeated team right now that's low? Take a team like Sweetwater. Like, Sweetwater's 2-0 right now, and they would be in D3. If you look at Sweetwater's schedule and how they play and who they're playing, they're not going to play enough good teams, at least in the rating system. And I mean good enough to get them in. They're not going to play enough of those teams to get their rating higher than what it is right now, which is a negative 12.6. If you look at their league, the only team that they're going to make any headway on for a better rating is beating Mater Dei. And if they beat Mater Dei, it's only like beating a 9.4 rating. You're not going to go to a 40 by beating a 9.4. It's going to average itself out. Sweetwater is playing all teams with a negative rating. They're not going to have a positive rating at the end of the year. If they do, it's going to be barely above 0. If they go undefeated and beat Mater Dei Catholic, it might be around 6. That's not good enough to get you in the Open. That's not good enough to get you in D1. You're barely going to be in D2. You don't have to worry about having a good season and then getting bumped to some ridiculous level with the team that you currently have. But if you load up your schedule, that's almost a good, guaranteed way to make the playoffs. You just have to be competitive. It rewards playing good teams and having good matchups instead of blowing out teams that aren't very good, which I think is better in the long run anyway. The more you play teams your caliber and better, the better your playoff options are going to be, regardless of what your record is. And I think that's the way it should be. America's Finest Football Show, each and every Monday night with Braden Surprenant. We're here from 10 to midnight. Took up a lot of time in that first segment. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about San Diego State Aztec football, and we'll get you some preview of Week 3's games. Coming up next on America's Finest Football Show with Braden Surprenant, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3.
Small business owners. Spectrum Business knows you do it all. Make sales, track inventory, and keep your customers happy. Keep it all going with Spectrum One for Business. For just $49.99 a month, get fast, reliable internet, advanced Wi-Fi with Security Shield, and a free mobile line for 1 year. Visit spectrum.com/business to get internet, advanced Wi-Fi, and a free mobile line for a year for $49.99 a month. Visit spectrum.com/business today. Restrictions apply. Services not available in all areas.
Tony Gwynn Jr. here. Taking care of myself is my #1 priority. That's why I started taking Symbiotica, the leading health and wellness brand that creates clean, high-quality supplements to help me stay on top of my game, day in and day out, all season long. Symbiotica's delicious, high-quality formulas make me feel alert, strong, and healthy every day. First product I subscribed to with Symbiotica was one easy-to-squeeze packet of magnesium L-threonate, which tastes like delicious vanilla cream. Head to Symbiotica.com and use code PADRES for 15% off plus free shipping.
Hi, I'm Dalvet Quince. One way to help manage type 2 diabetes is to regularly exercise. My exercise program can help get you into a routine that works for you. Keep in mind, managing blood sugar also takes the right
diet. Hi, I'm celebrity chef Franklin Becker. Ever since I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I've adapted my cooking style without sacrificing flavor. If you want to learn more tips about diet
and exercise,
visit mytype2transformation.com.
For those in the market for flavor, there's Modelo Spiked Aguas Frescas, a flavorful drink that's a modern twist on a Mexican street classic with 4 vibrant and refreshing flavors. Pineapple, watermelon, hibiscus, and cucumber lime, made with a splash of real fruit juice. Modelo Spiked Aguas Frescas are perfect for any fiesta, small or big. Modelo Spiked Aguas Frescas, boldly authentic, vibrantly flavorful. Drink responsibly. Modelo Spiked Aguas Frescas flavored beers imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. Hibiscus contains juice only for color.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Obviously, we're gonna mention some San Diego State football on this show each and every Monday as well. Get a little San Diego State football action and talk some Aztec football with the new Aztec Fast. Sean Lewis and company getting the job done on Saturday night as they took down Texas A&M Commerce. Again, if you're just tuning in, America's Finest Football Show with Braden Surprenant. This will air each and every Monday night from 10 to midnight. Following mostly Monday Night Football, there's a couple times the Padres will preempt us and cancel and make our show punt for the next week. But we're talking a lot of high school football here in town, and we're going to mention a lot of Aztec football as well. If you're just first time hearing me, I'm on each and every Sunday morning from 10 to 2. I'm on each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on 97.3 The Fan, kind of recapping Saturday, getting ready for Sunday. Padres baseball, but also football. We're going to talk some football on that show, more college and NFL. This show is going to be mostly high school football. During the week, I'm on with Andy and Elston each and every day from 10 to 2 on the airwaves. So little more showtime for me, trying to get as much airtime as possible, obviously, but big passion for high school football here in town, and we're going to talk some high school football with you. We're going to re-air this show Thursdays on YouTube at around 7 o'clock, so we can get you a little preview before the upcoming week, the night before, get you a nice little refresher before we dive into some more high school football on Friday, but that's how this show is going to work each and every Monday night on the radio waves, and then on YouTube on Thursday nights, most likely during Thursday night football. See, that's another reason why we couldn't do it on Thursday nights. Thursday night football would go, very long sometimes, and it would cut into our deal. We wanted to talk some Aztec football. San Diego State took on Texas A&M Commerce on Saturday night, and at 5 o'clock, it was a 5 o'clock game. Didn't have to worry about people bitching about the sun being too hot. As I like to mention and remind people all the time, is that it's hot in August. And the other thing, too, is there's no shade anywhere in the country. Look up any stadium, any college football stadium throughout the country. You know who doesn't have shade? All of them. None of them have shade. They don't have shade. There's no shade at Neyland Stadium. There's no shade at Bryant-Denny. There's no shade in the Swamp. There's no shade at Doak Campbell. There's no shade anywhere. The only people that have shade are Syracuse and the teams in the middle of the country, like North Dakota and Idaho, and the ones that have domes. The Kippy Dome. Those are the only places that have shade. Everybody else is an open air stadium. I mean, because for majority of the season, it's not hot. It's actually kind of cold. But anyway, Aztecs took care of business on Saturday. You got to see the first of Danny O'Neal. Danny O'Neal, 22 for 33, 214 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Aztecs. It's going to be a work in progress with him at quarterback just because he is a freshman quarterback. It's the same thing as a rookie quarterback. He's getting used to a new system. He's at a different level and a more advanced level. And, with offenses, you're always trying to work out the kinks. I mean, I went to TCU and I'm a big TCU fan. They played Stanford on Friday. They kind of struggled. But the thing is, it's, Sonny Dykes put it out. They threw a lot of things at us that we weren't expecting them to do, or some new stuff. I mean, there's always new things with these games. It's one of the hardest games to prepare for as a coach is week one, because you don't know what the other team's going to do. You can make a guess, with coaches and everything, but sometimes they change plays. They change how you line up based on the personnel you got. So that's one. I don't want to build any built-in excuses. San Diego State took care of business against Texas A&M Commerce. They were down 6-3 at halftime, but it's going to happen in these college games, especially early on in the season. Brand new coach for the Aztecs in Sean Lewis. He's got to put his system in. A lot of these players are brand new as well. They got to get used to a new system at a new school. It's going to take a little bit of time. He mentioned that on Andy and Elston's show, that it's going to take some time to get into the swing of things. And I agree with that. But they're going to have to fix a lot before next week when Oregon State comes to town. Oregon State, even though they're not technically a Power 4 school anymore, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be a good football team. And they're going to have to be ready to be Aztec fast, a lot faster than they were on Saturday. It was Aztec slow for a while. I mean, opening drive for San Diego State was not necessarily the greatest thing. I mean, they didn't score until 28 seconds left in the first quarter. But if you look at their opening drive, I mean, it was a 6-yard run, incomplete pass, punt. Second drive, run for 10 yards, great. Run for 1 yard. Well, 1 for 10 yards. You got a penalty on the Aztecs. Then a run for 1, a sack, pass complete, punt. and then a punt. I mean, their first 2 drives ended in a punt, didn't get too many yards, but again, they're trying to work on things. I thought the defense played pretty well. The defense is not supposed to be one of the strong suits for the Aztecs. They get a fumble recovery for a touchdown by Tano Latuli. He was able to recover one. Deshaun Polk knocked it loose. Overall statistics for the first game. Running game was pretty good too. I mean, Marquez Cooper's they're going to give that dude the ball a lot. I mean, he got the ball 27 times against Texas A&M Commerce. Played for Sean Lewis at Kent State a couple of years ago. 27 carries, 223 yards, 8.3 average on the average per rush, 2 touchdowns along with 47. I think a lot of people were a little interested to see how the rushing game would be with an Aztec team that's going to throw the ball over the place. But Marquez Cooper looks like a pretty good back for San Diego State. In terms of receiving, 3 receptions for Elise Brown, the 4th for 91 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Napier had 3 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. Long of 29 for Napier, long of 44 for Brown. Deshaun Polk had 6 receptions for 30 yards. Didn't see Mekhi Shaw at all, which I thought was interesting. So that was the kind of overall statistics. San Diego State gets the win. They're 1-0 they're 1-0 on the season. Other teams in conference also won. Air Force won, Boise State won, San Jose State won. UNLV hammered Houston down in Houston. Utah State got the victory. I thought Hawaii was going to pull it out against UCLA. They couldn't hang on against the Bruins. They took the loss. Nevada came back and bounced back after blowing a game to SMU last week. They won this week. They're now 1-1. Colorado State got run out of the building against Texas. Fresno State, who was projected to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West Conference, went to the Big House and gave Michigan everything they could handle for a while. Wyoming lost to Arizona State. New Mexico is now 0-2 after they got rolled by Arizona. It's going to be a tough conference for the Aztecs, and we'll see what they do against Oregon State coming up this weekend. But it's going to be a good tester, I think, for San Diego State early in the season. Home game, hopefully the place is packed. Not that great of attendance, I thought, on the aerial shots of the stadium. And you got to get out there and support San Diego State. Not just support, check out the new stadium. It's great. It's a great place to watch football. It's a great atmosphere. I think they did a great job with the stadium, but I think Sean Lewis is going to get these guys going and make them entertaining to watch so you can get more people at the facility, because I think that stadium needs some more people in it. It's a nice stadium. Aztecs win 45-14. We'll have more on Aztec football in the next couple of shows. Hopefully next time we're talking about this next Monday, it's because they shocked Oregon State. That'd be nice. San Diego State lost to Oregon State last year up in Corvallis. See if they can get some revenge this year. One more segment to go on America's Finest Football Show, taking it up to Tuesday morning, if you will, going to midnight right here on San Diego's #1 sports station. Games on Friday night. So a couple of games will be on Thursday. Maranatha Christian is at Hoover at 7 o'clock. Maranatha 2-0 in the year. Hoover is 1-1. Castle Park will be at Monte Vista. Castle Park 1-1 on the year. Monte Vista is 0-2. And then San Pasqual will go to the coast and take on Carlsbad. San Pasqual is 0-2, looking for their first win. Carlsbad 1-1, looking to add and win 2 games in a row after losing game 1 of the year. As for Friday's games, and we got a lot of good ones coming up, and I think this week is a big week in high school football in San Diego to really determine, who's really as good as they think they're going to be, and who's going to separate themselves, who's going to put themselves in an opportunity to win an Open Division championship or make the Open, who's going to be a high seed in Division I. Are these teams that I had in my top 10, are they going to stay in the top 10? Are they for real or are they not? And I think this is a big week that really separates that as we move forward here in the high school football season of 2024. Let's talk about the games on Friday. Some of the games involve teams from out of town. We'll start with those first. Lincoln's going to kick off at 6 o'clock in Nevada. They're going to take on Coronado of Henderson. Coronado, top 5 team in the state of Nevada. It's a really good football team in the Las Vegas area. So it's not going to be a walk in the park for Lincoln. That being said, Cal Preps does think Lincoln will take care of business and handle Coronado. They have the projected score at 56-27 Lincoln. I think Lincoln's going to win. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be that much of a margin, but I know Lincoln should be a victorious over there in Nevada. Other games involving teams from out of town. This is a good one. I think this is a good football game coming up this week. It's coming to San Diego. It's not the Honor Bowl yet, but I will say that the game between San Clemente and LCC has the making to be a really good game. I think this is a good tester for LCC. I think after winning their first two games, St. Augustine it was not projected to have that good of a year this season. So La Costa Canyon took care of business there. I think Del Norte victory for LCC, and then they did it was a big way to show that LCC is not here to mess around by taking care of one of the teams in the middle of the pack of the Division I open conversation with Del Norte. They hammered the Nighthawks, and now they're going to take a tester in the Southern Section against San Clemente. San Clemente, a good team in the Southern Section, not necessarily the greatest of teams, but if they were in San Diego, they'd be one of the best teams, top 10 team in San Diego each and every year. So it would be a big win for La Costa Canyon at home. San Clemente is projected to win 21-19 over LCC. That's a close margin for the Tritons and the Mavericks, who like to play each other almost every single year. This year it's at LCC, 7 o'clock game here in town. I'm going to go with the Mavericks. I think they win this game, so obviously I think they cover that 21-19 look for San Clemente according to calpreps.com and their predictions. I got La Costa Canyon in this one. I think San Diego teams out of town on this pick are going to be 2-0 this weekend. Mountain Point at Cathedral. Cathedral in the Honor Bowl. There's going to be fun. It's going to be cool with the Honor Bowl this year. There's going to be some 7-on-7 games, flag football for the girls. So girls flag football will participate in the Honor Bowl this year for a couple of games. So there'll be 3 boys football games this weekend. There'll be 2 flag football games this weekend. Grossmont is playing in town on Saturday as part of the flag football matchups. I think they play at 1 o'clock. The girls flag football team for Cathedral will play at 4:30 before the boys team plays at 7:30 against Mountain Point at Arizona. The other 2 games are Granite Hills is taking on a team on Saturday from Arizona. As I get that for you real quick. I forget the name. It's like, I think it was like Perry. It's Perry. Granite Hills will play Perry on Saturday at Cathedral as part of the Honor Bowl. And then the last game is Long Beach Poly and Cerro Gardena. So a good game for the Southern Section down here in San Diego as well. The Honor Bowl does such a great job. So it'll be fun to see the Honor Bowl yet again at Cathedral Catholic High School. Brand new video board at Cathedral will be in full use this weekend, and should be a fun game. In terms of the game that we were talking about, Cathedral Catholic and Mountain Point. Mountain Point projected to win 40-14. Cathedral projected to win 40-14 over Mountain Point according to CalPreps. Mountain Point's rating is not very high, but they did get a lot of transfers in. They've only played 1 game in Arizona. I would imagine the score to be a little bit closer than that, but I think the Dons beat Mountain Point in this game. Games involving teams from just San Diego. Mount Miguel's going to La Jolla Country Day. That game will be at 7 o'clock at La Jolla Country Day. Mount Miguel's projected to win 34-24 over La Jolla Country Day. I'll take that. I think Mount Miguel probably beats La Jolla Country Day by 10 points. It might be by a little bit more. I'll take the Matadors over the Tories. Modern Day Catholic is at San Marcos. This is an interesting game for San Marcos. I think they're better than Modern Day Catholic, but Modern Day Catholic's played two of the top 3 teams in San Diego already in Cathedral and Granite Hills. I think if this game is a little bit closer, maybe that separates a little bit for where San Marcos is and where they need to be. Because, I mean, you look at it, the 2 teams in San Diego that beats Modern Day in the top 3 in the county beat them by the same margin. They beat them 56-28. It was the exact same score. So we'll see where San Marcos is at. Not really necessarily the biggest measuring stick, but we'll see if Modern Day can strike back and get a win. I think that'd be a big spot for them, and it's going to say a lot. This game's going to say a lot for the direction of Modern Day as well as San Marcos moving forward. San Marcos, are they that team that's going to make that jump and be the best team in the Avocado League? Modern Day, are they going to be a team that's still hanging around and being relevant after kind of a down season last year after winning a state championship not too long ago? Madison at La Jolla. I'm taking San Marcos in that game, by the way. Madison at La Jolla. I think this is a good game for both city schools. One in the Western League, one in the Eastern League. La Jolla in the Eastern League favored in this one. 31-17 is the prediction according to CalPreps. I think La Jolla is better than Madison. I got La Jolla in my top 10. I think they stay in the top 10 with a nice win over Madison this weekend. Give me the Vikings over the Warhawks. Rancho Bernardo is going to go to Point Loma to take on the Pointers. 2-0 Rancho Bernardo, 1-1 Point Loma. Point Loma lost to Del Norte in their first game, a team that will play Rancho Bernardo later on in the season in league play. And then Point Loma went on to beat Otay Ranch out of the South Bay. I think RB is going to win this game. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I'll take Rancho Bernardo in this game. Cal Preps thinks Rancho Bernardo is going to win 26-3. I will take that. I'll take the 23 points on this one for Rancho Bernardo. Give me the Broncos to beat Point Loma. Again, Cal Preps projection 26-3 for RB. Helix at St. Augustine. This is an interesting matchup between the Highlanders and the Saints and the Saintsmen. Saints and Helix both going in the wrong direction. Both could use a win to kind of change their season, the direction of their season. Helix is projected to win 31-22. I think Helix is going to cruise to a victory here. I think they played a couple of tough teams to start the season in El Camino and in St. Francis from the Bay Area. I think Helix gets the victory. I think they improve to 1-2. I think Saints drops to now 0-3. Last game, we're going to talk about Mission Hills and Oceanside. Again, another measuring stick for, I think, both Oceanside and Mission Hills. Mission Hills is one of those teams that's trying to stay near the top and be the top team in the Avocado League, and an Avocado League that I think is wide open this year in terms of who's going to take the top spot. Oceanside, after some bad years over the last couple of years, I mean, they have not really been, that great since 2014. They're trying to get back to those glory days of Oceanside football. Had a good win last week against Santa Fe Christian. San Juan Hills, that they lost to, is a really good football team. Not going to hang it on them too much, but I know they're trying to turn things around. If Oceanside can beat Mission Hills here, that would be a big measuring stick for the turn of the program for the Pirates. I think Mission Hills wins. I think they got more horses than Oceanside does. I think it's closer than what Cal Prep says, the 31-17, but I'll take the Grizzlies in that game. And that's the look at the games coming up this week. Should be a fun time. Thanks again for joining us today on America's Finest Football Show. We'll talk to you again on Thursday on the YouTube channel, but we'll be here each and every Monday from 10 to midnight on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant signing off.
Episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to follow me on social media at @B_SURP. Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to tune in to the Braden Surprenant Show each and every Sunday from 8 to 10 in the morning on San Diego's